Russia needs to understand these children must come home. They must be repatriated with their families. We need an ironclad security agreement, unlike the 94 Budapest agreement that didn't have that. And as I passed the wartime supplemental in the House, passed by the Senate, Russia needs to pay for its own crimes in the Repo Act. I met with the Ukraine ambassador yesterday, showed me a video that Save Ukraine put together featuring these children and describing the Russian atrocities. The Russian Federation has abducted at least 20,000 children that we know of, and every expert I've talked to believes the number's higher, much higher than that. They are also indoctrinating and militarizing Ukrainian children in the occupied territories, possibly up to 1 million. According to the video, Russia has allocated $7 billion in its 26-28 budget for a national project titled Youth and Children, essentially militarized youth organizations. The ambassador told me again that 1 million children live in the occupied territories, vulnerable to brainwashing and abuse, and more than 43,000 have already enrolled in Russia's paramilitary youth program. And I think really most frightening to me is in these territories, the textbooks spew false information and conspiracy theories about NATO and the free world. All this is part of Russia's effort to turn future generations against Ukraine, the United States, and Europe, because in their words, they are preparing for a large-scale war against NATO. It will not end at Donbass and the land bridge to Crimea. We have to be clear-eyed in these negotiations. Some of these children's parents are have been threatened in giving up their kids. They're shipped to Russia, stripped of their identities, tortured, forced to memorize propaganda, and told their country and their own families are the enemy. Finally, many of them are sent to the front lines of the Russian war itself. Imagine a child age 16 being sent to the front lines to fight against their own homeland. And Mr. Chairman, in the documentary Children in the Fire, I'd recommend everybody watch this. They show a child in a prison where adults use electrodes to shock them under their fingernails and genitals. And I hate to even say that in public, but it is so horrific. No child should ever have to endure that kind of barbarism. And to me, it's good versus evil, and this is evil in its purest form. And like the chairman, I've met with a lot of these survivors. I've met with many of them who were sent to Russian camps, and they described the forced indoctrination and the torture. As a father of 5, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I can't imagine any of my children being kidnapped and indoctrinated against the United States of America. And imagine how Americans would feel if that happened to them. I'm thankful, Chairman Graham, for your leadership, calling attention to this important issue. And I agree that any peace must include the repatriation of these children, and it must include the Ironclad security agreement. We cannot repeat the mistakes of the past. Unfortunately, the reporting I'm seeing out of Moscow shows Ukraine making concessions while Putin has made none. That is no surprise. I think he will drag this out. He will continue his behavior, including the kidnapping and abuse of the children, until pressure is placed on him and he's forced to be stopped. We must hold those responsible accountable and ensure this ends not only for Ukraine's sake, but for our own sake and for the world. Russia's attempt to re-engineer an entire generation is a battle plan. In their words, they are preparing children for war against NATO. This is a national security imperative, and beyond that, it's a moral imperative. And this is a time, all of us on both sides of the aisle, for moral clarity, because history will judge us by what we do here and now. And it will judge us how we respond today.